Recipe notes for this black velvet cake. All right, it might be Southern sacrilege for me to admit this, but I don't really love red velvet cake too much. It just doesn't do a whole lot for me. But a black velvet cake is an entirely different story. This cake is amazing. And I think you guys are really going to enjoy this recipe. And I'll break it down for you here a little bit in today's recipe notes. So a black velvet cake and a red velvet cake are like cousins. They're definitely related. They share some similar ingredients, but they part ways big time when it comes to the flavor. I think black velvet cake being much more intensely and deeply flavorful. There's a little bit of cocoa powder in a red velvet cake and some buttermilk and vinegar and all that's going on here in this cake as well, but there's no red food coloring, and the black color you see comes from a really special ingredient that I'll talk about in just a sec. All right, so I've got kind of a weird little close-up of the dry ingredients here. It's pretty much standard up. We've got baking soda, there's a little bit of salt, and that's brown sugar, which I'm using instead of a white granulated sugar. Keeping in line with the darker theme of the colors here, brown sugar works just as well, and I think actually contributes to the moisture of the cake. But you'll also notice a super black cocoa powder in this photo, and that's what we're using in this cake. It's not that easy to find in stores, but you can order it easily online via the links in my post. Yeah, I usually don't love to ask you guys to special order anything, but I think every once in a while it's really fun to make something special and kind of lean into a cool baking project, and it's really easy. You can buy this stuff on Amazon, no problem at all. And some specialty baking shops will carry it as well. And here I've got a close-up of the wet ingredients. You can see there's some buttermilk, just standard vegetable or canola oil, and a little bit of balsamic vinegar, which I use instead of a white vinegar because, again, it's dark, and so it's in line with the color theme. The frosting for this cake, I think, is extra special as well, and I came up with this. You'll see in my post I talk about it a little bit. I had a lot of heavy whipping cream on hand from some other recipe testing that I did, so I whipped it up and I folded in some store-bought whipped cream cheese, sweetened it a little bit, and I added some of that black cocoa powder in and just a splash of coffee, which I also use in the cake. And honestly, I think it might be my new favorite frosting. It's so good. I love sprinkles, and I'm not ashamed to admit that, so I just threw a bunch on top of my cake and called it good. Cake decorating is not my forte, and I am very aware of that, so I think if it is your forte, then feel free to pipe your frosting on however you like, but keep in mind this is a whipped cream frosting, so it's a little bit fluffier, a little lighter than a buttercream. So I thought that just slathering it on and then covering it with sprinkles was the way to go, but you do you as far as your frosting goes. I hope you guys enjoy this one. It's really good for Halloween. What with this super dark color, you could lean into the decorations and buy some fun Halloween themed things to pile on top of the cake. Yeah, the world is your oyster when it comes to this thing. I think you guys are gonna like it, and if you have any questions about that special cocoa powder or any tips for cake making in general, just shoot me a line and I'm happy to get back to you as soon as I can. And in the meantime, happy baking.